Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. Escape from the corporate rat race to empowered franchise ownership. Are you ready to take control of your destiny, follow your dreams, and live life on your own terms? Join our hosts, Dave and Pete, for insights on how to break free from the corporate grind, ditch the 9-to-5, and step into empowered franchise ownership.
Welcome to the Escape and the Empower podcast. My name is Pete and I'm with my partner, Dave Greenberg. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Pete. How are you on this chilly morning?
Oh, I am awesome. I am awesome. Now, I have to declare I am in Florida, so it is a little warmer. It is not going to get quite to 80 degrees today. So, but I can't complain. Back home, it's 5 below. So no complaints there.
You can run your business from Florida and leave Chicago behind?
I can for the month of February. I absolutely can. That is perfect from a standpoint. Our mission in life is really to help people escape the corporate world, to live a life where they're empowered, where they can take control of their destiny, to live life on their own terms, and certainly build wealth. And one of the things that we always try to do during our podcast is answer a question. And I thought today what we'd focus on, because it's so relevant now, is how do we achieve that American dream through franchise ownership, right? So the American dream is we're all going for it. Well, let's kind of play that into how do we achieve that American dream through franchise ownership? Sound good?
I think it's great, Pete, because you and I both lived it. It's authentic. It's something I love to talk about, and we talk about it with our candidates every day.
Yeah, and you can't underemphasize that this idea of living the American dream where you're in control of your life, that's a big thing. First thing is that with a franchise or being an entrepreneur, you gain control of your future, right? And you and I, we lived the corporate life where they would tell us, hey, you're moving to this job tomorrow, or you're moving here, you're moving overseas in your case, right? The idea is that when we're a franchise business owner, we control our schedules. We don't have to jump on a plane if we don't want to jump on a plane. We don't have to be at a 7 o'clock meeting if we don't want to be at a 7 o'clock meeting. You have a direct impact on your success, or simply put, you have that freedom away from that corporate structure.
Being the captain of your own calendar creates these freedoms, and it allows you to create this own structure. Because, you get to break free from that 9-to-5 grind. In our cases, what was it, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 24/7, whatever the grind was. And I love Ford Motor Company for it, but you never got away from it. And even on the Sunday scaries, maybe you got a Saturday to run errands, but the traditional job was really throwing constraints at you left and right, and you had to answer to someone, and there were 52 emails over the weekend that you just really didn't want to look at. So the autonomy that you get out of breaking free of the corporate grind is just awesome. And for me, it's totally relieved my stress. It kind of gets me pumped up. I enjoy my weekends. I plan my Mondays so I don't work until 1. And, I think it's all how you think about your transition, which we'll talk about in another episode, gets you really to focus on, man, if I free myself from that 9-to-5 corporate grind, it just has to be rewarding.
Well, you think about, you and I, we had set hours, right? I never got to work, any later than 7 a.m., right? I was there like 6 a.m. and you and I got hung up and we'd stay late and that kind of stuff. And when you're a business owner, that doesn't mean you're not working hard. I'm a business owner. I'm still working 10 hours a day, but I get up early and I'm done by 3 o'clock. So I'll put my 9-10 hours in and then I'll go do some stuff. So it's under my control. Or Fridays, I escape a little early. I call them fun Fridays, right? Where I go do some stuff that maybe I hadn't time to do. So the idea is that it's great. It reduces stress and certainly you're in control. What about this idea of business ownership or franchise ownership where we're building wealth, right? We have that financial growth with that business, the opportunity to build some long-term profits and equity in the business. You've certainly seen that with your business.
Absolutely. We've said this many times. In the corporate world, you're exchanging time for money. That's the definition of a W-2 job. Yeah, you get stock options and grants. They come and go, and who knows what you're going to get at the end, a good 401k, but why do it for someone else? Do it for yourself. I think business ownership has allowed me and you all to build our own personal wealth. And you can define that in different ways. We've talked about it, defining it in lifestyle. We've talked about it, defining it in financial terms. But when you think of long-term wealth through building equity in your business, it can come in the form of an exit someday. or just building wealth through the free cash flows and profits that you generate. Obviously, you're going to put some back into the business to grow it, but obviously you're going to take care of your family at the same time. And the beautiful thing about the franchise business model, it's proven. So, it's built to provide steady growth and help you build wealth. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, like you said, you got to go to work, but it's a whole different type of work when you're building wealth for yourself than for someone else.
Yeah, I remember the story of a guy at Ford. He started a whole new group or a division, right? And he built it. And 10 years working hard, treating it like it was his own business. And then after 10 years, they moved him to a new job, right? And he didn't get any kind of wealth created but from all that hard work. And the idea is that if you work hard, you can build something. And I like the idea that it can be a legacy. And it doesn't necessarily mean like kids are going to join the business, but the idea is that it's kind of generational wealth. And that's where you see a lot of wealth grown in the United States is through business ownership, and franchising is maybe just an easier path to becoming an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and let's take that a little bit further, right? So as this idea of a franchise, the benefits of becoming an entrepreneur through a franchise, it's nice because you have that autonomy, but you also have that support, that training, that infrastructure. That's a big deal, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you've grown up in the corporate world and been successful, you obviously can deliver on a plan. You can execute a system. You can build workflows. And when you think of this franchise business model, you got to follow the playbook. So, it has all sorts of support. It has all sorts of training. Even when you think of not being an island on yourself and being able to reach out to fellow franchisees to figure out where they stubbed their toe or where they found an opportunity. These operating systems, these playbooks, whatever you want to call it, is built for you to be successful. So really, when you get down to it, you got to look at that entrepreneurial spirit in the mirror and say, okay, it's up to me. I got to put this thing on the guardrails because they're already built. And I got to fly.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about franchise business models, you invest in it. And one person can be wildly successful with the franchise system and one person isn't, right? And it comes down to the individual execution. So you can have the best model in the world, but you still have to work hard. You still have to follow the system, to your point, right? Now, that doesn't mean you can't make the system better. You still have to solve problems. You know what? The marketing may not work the way you want. Or you know what? Somebody may quit on you or whatever it may be. There's going to be problems. The benefit of a franchise, to your point, is that it's got the guardrails, but you still have to execute from that standpoint. So let's talk about this idea of the American dream and unlimited financial potential. You and I, great corporate positions, we got paid well, but we knew we were capped, right? We were capped at our salary. Each year, maybe we get a little raise from that standpoint. We may get a bonus, good year, bad year, we don't know, right? The idea behind a business is that there is no ceiling in terms of what you can make. And that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And what you put in is what you get out. So, if you want to run, or you want to build a team that can run, or you want to surround yourself by smart people that can put a, X factor against what you want to accomplish, it's totally up to you. I often talk about this with my candidates because you got to decide in the process of whether you're going to be an A, B, and C player, right? Because there's averages in everything. And you'll find that as you do your investigation in the franchise process. You'll talk to some B players, C players, and A players, and you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what do you want to be? And figure out what defines that A, B, or C player, because they exist. And most of the people that we speak to are obviously A players, so they want to figure out how to get there. And so, what you put in and what you get out can really, open up your opportunity to be limitless on the financial growth.
Yeah, no question. And when I was evaluating franchises, I always wanted to talk to the A players. I wanted to talk to the very best, right? Because that's what I want to become. A lot of times people say, well, I want to talk to 5 struggling ones. And I go, yeah, but I don't want to be one of them. I want to be the top. And so I want to hang around with and compete with the very best, or simply put, the A players. And A players like to be around A players. When businesses, right, if you have an A player and you have a bunch of B players, that A player isn't sticking around, right? They want that potential. And so you truly have no cap in what you can make. You just have to go make it happen. And you surround yourself with really good people and you go get it done. Now, what about this idea of being an entrepreneur with a franchise? is that personal growth, right? I mean, the cool thing about being a business owner is you're learning every day. You're making mistakes, you're learning from those mistakes, and you're going forward. I like that personal journey of growth.
You know, I'm giggling just because my wife always said, Dave, you know, you don't have time to make friends. And she goes, you're right. I'm in another state. I'm in another country. I'm traveling 50%. I come home, I'm worn out. I have 48 hours maybe to get my act together for the next week. And one of the benefits I found, which is we talk about all the time, is my expanded relationships and being able to build my network, not just in a business way, but in a personal way also, because, you know, you're only smarter to get together if you get smart people around you. And I've been really able to do that as I, work in the franchise system.
Yeah, no question about it. And I'm a big proponent to investing money in developing yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I've been in mastermind groups with like Darren Hardy. And one of the things I learned is that you got to invest in yourself. And certainly as an entrepreneur, I invest about 10% of what I make back into attending seminars, to being a part of mastermind groups. I'm always looking to learn and be around other really successful people, because success leads clues. And right. I like to find those things. And so the cool thing is you can invest in yourself. You can take the time to do it. You can spend the capital to do it. When you're caught up in the corporate world, you don't have the time, to your point that you made. So yeah. What about this idea when we have a franchise, we're becoming an entrepreneur, it's access really to a proven business model, right? They've figured out all the systems, the process, procedures. They've made the mistakes. So you come in, you've got your great business acumen, you got your leadership skills, and you plug into this franchise model. That's huge when you've got a business model that's proven out and you just got to follow the playbook.
The brand is built, it's positioned in the marketplace with products, services, and pricing, and you understand who the customer base is. So you're not starting from scratch with a new idea. I've been through the startups. I've been through the requirements to scale and hire and fire and all that stuff. And it's hard. It can be rewarding, but it's hard. And 80% of those startups fail. When you think franchising, the success rate is way, way higher because of what you just talked about. You don't have to spend money on lawyers or build the website, or you can innovate, like you said earlier. You just need to execute. Follow the playbook, capitalize yourself, work hard, be a good person. And, that's how you drive success. It's really not difficult.
Yeah, and I think with a franchise, you do have a higher chance of success because they've already figured out the mistakes. And if you can make less mistakes, it saves you capital, right? And capital is the lifeblood of your business, right? It also can save you time. So if you can leverage saving capital and time, that improves your chances of success. And let's talk a little bit more about brand recognition. You touched on that, right? This idea that you have a brand, but a lot of franchises are emerging brands, right? Because to get that prime territory, you might have to invest in a franchise that the brand is just starting to grow. And you want to catch that on that growth mode, right? Where you're getting into something, because a lot of times, if you know the name of a franchise concept, you've already missed the opportunity, right? So it's about plugging into something that you know is going to become a strong brand. Now, it may take a little bit, but you're going to get all the benefits of that brand recognition. As you build your business, the brand is also going to be building.
There's opportunities. I found, I jumped in on a brand. I think they only had 30 locations when I jumped into my Salons by JC, and everyone grew together. Not everything was complete, but the opportunity to define and contribute and innovate together, was attractive to me, and that's attractive to some of the candidates when I talk about emerging brands. If you're busting into a new idea, yeah, there may be a little risk, but there's also reward. But in most cases, emerging brands that I've been part of and my candidates have jumped into are ones that are disrupting a category. And disrupting those categories can be an established category. And they've come in with a new investment structure that lowers the operating costs and improves margins and gets you to do different things by just thinking different ways. The other disruption that we see a lot in essential services, mom and pops, we love them. Great tradespeople, do really well, but they just suck at service because they don't have time or the structure. And so, these new emerging brands that are taking on established categories in essential services, working with the fragmented or mom and pop competition is just like all sorts of opportunity.
What I like is that now they're kind of transforming. So you're taking a business and maybe you're adding additional revenue services. So, well, for example, like painting. Well, maybe we do painting, maybe we do power washing, maybe we do gutter cleaning, maybe we do holiday lights. This idea of taking an idea and then building upon it. And that, it kind of leads us to our next one. It's really this idea that you can build something where you're protected. You've got something now, you can scale it, you can grow it to where, and everybody wants that financial security, so that if something happens, I've got that financial security. And the benefit of the franchise, it's easy, it's hard work, but it's easy to scale and expand to build something significant.
Right, because easy is defined by, this is everything you've done to get where you are in your career. Whether it's just viewed as another project off the corner of your desk that a CEO gave you, or if you're a CEO and you're going into a new market. It's just not that hard. You take that skill set you built, and really what I've learned, and I didn't realize in my kind of overzealous loyalty to Ford Motor Company, is never find yourself single-threaded. Never. And when you can build that long-term financial security, there are opportunities to have multiple revenue streams, whether it's in the franchise itself, within modalities or multiple products, or the opportunity to build multiple locations. Some might do better than others, or even territories. So I love the idea of this long-term financial security when it relates to no longer being single-threaded.
Yeah, and you're vulnerable, right? There's so many people that are vulnerable now. If you're in your mid-50s, mid-60s, you got a target on your back. And what is it? A good portion of executives get pushed out before they're ready. And we certainly have seen that a lot. One of the other things that I like about being an entrepreneur through franchising is that it's not about just making money. It's about being engaged in the community. When I was at Ford, there was never time to be engaged in the community. You're so busy working. And the idea that you can create jobs in your community, you can sponsor that Little League team, be connected, be part of that chamber of commerce. To your point earlier, networking, that's a big deal and part of the American dream.
I was just working with a candidate, very successful guy. He's, just in his early 60s. He's like, man, I've been retired and I just miss the piece of community. So in our consultation, it took me about 10 minutes to really dive in into what he was saying. And at the end of the day, he wanted to be part of something. He loved his golf, he loved his wife, he loved his life, but he just missed that connection. And it was, when you think of community, playgrounds, all that stuff. No. It's the network. He wanted to be the ambassador of his business. He's looking at being the local neighborhood butcher, which he's like, man, that is such a community-driven business where you build relationships with your customers and they come back. And, that is a real piece of these businesses. And it can happen if you're working in a B2C opportunity in the franchising space, but even the B2B opportunity. If you're a reliable vendor for businesses, they'd love to have you back. And, we relied on those people in our jobs, and the ones that did great jobs always got the next job.
Yeah, absolutely. We went to a restaurant the other night, and the owner was the one that was, for lack of better terms, greeting everybody and, confirming the reservations and all that kind of stuff. And he knew everybody. He was like the mayor, right? He'd give the ladies a little kiss on the cheek, and the deal was you could just tell he was connected to the community. Everybody, all the locals knew him. And that's what it's all about, is that connection from that standpoint.
Right.
As we speak about this idea of the American dream, there's many ways to do it, but being an entrepreneur is the primary way to become an entrepreneur. And if you're going to become an entrepreneur, we want to leverage a franchise business. And certainly we've covered the 10 things why you want to leverage a franchise to achieve that American dream. But you and I, we get the opportunity to help people every day. So if you're listening and you want a little piece of that American dream and you want to learn about franchising, I encourage you to go to, Dave, the Empower, Escape and Empower from a standpoint.
Right.
Right. And the Empowered Franchisee, I think, website, or Hire Yourself website. Reach out to us, schedule a 15-minute call. We'll learn a little bit about you. We'll tell you how we can help you. But this idea is it's out there for you. You just got to see if it's right. And we're here to help you with that.
Absolutely, Pete. Well said. 15 minutes. That's like nothing. Make that investment. have a conversation. We'll figure out if it makes sense to work together. We've been doing this for a long time, and we have decades of experience to share with you for no cost. Give us a shout, link into us. Pete, this was a great subject for today. I really appreciate that of how to achieve the American dream through franchise ownership.
Yeah, and I encourage people, if you like what we're talking about, subscribe, follow us. We're always here. And again, we're trying to help people take control of their destiny, live life on their own terms, and build wealth.
Thanks for tuning in to the Escape and Empower podcast. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider franchise ownership as a path to living life on your own terms. Start your journey towards financial freedom and flexibility. Connect with Dave at empoweredfranchisee.com or Pete at hireyourself.com. Until next time.